Hey guys, good to see you again. We are going to talk with my friend Miss Ruth, and we are going to just chit chat about a story that she has from a time in her life. So Ruth, you said that you had a story where it was really scary when you were on the water one time. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Ken and I were on vacation, and he decided that he wanted to go kayaking. I had never done it, but we were going to be kayaking on a lake, so I said, okay, I have the general idea of how it's going to work. And we took the kayaks out. We were on a lake that was called Long Lake, and I didn't realize that it was definitely long. So we went into the kayaks. We started going, and Kenny decided that he wanted to go to the far end of the lake. He wanted to see where the end was. Okay. I mean, it was nice and calm. It was nice. So we got to the end, got out of the kayaks, got back in, and then we decided to head back because the sky was starting to get a little overcast. And we got back into kayaks, and we had gone, I don't know, half a mile or so, and all of a sudden started raining a little bit, and the wind was picking up. And the current was actually going the opposite direction that we needed to go.
Of course.
So we were using some real strong arm power, which I don't have very much of. And about halfway back, thunder started, and I started getting really scared because I was in this boat by myself, even though Kenny was in a boat nearby. And I was afraid that since it was thundering, it probably was also going to start lightning, and that frightened me a lot. So I started praying, and we just kept going and going and going, and fighting the current. And eventually we did make it back to shore, but I was very scared, and the rain was coming down. And I remember when we got out of the kayaks that the first thing I thought about was God, and I thanked him for getting us back safe. And we got back into the car and drove back to the hotel that we were staying at. And the whole way back, I prayed and thanked God for watching over us, that we would get back okay.
That's amazing.
But it was so scary. I was almost crying. I mean, it was scary for me.
I think that can be very scary when you're out in the middle and you don't know what you're going to do. So sometimes in our life we have to just trust God. So I'm glad that God took care of you guys.
Oh, you have no idea. So am I.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Ruth, for coming to see us. And guys, I will see you a little bit later on Sunday school. Have a good day.
Bye.
Hey guys, good to see you again. Let's start with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Okay, so we talked to Miss Ruth today from our congregation, and she came and told us her scary story of when she was in a kayak on the lake. And it had a good ending, luckily, because she ended up getting to the other side safely because she said a prayer. So that was a good example of how God always helps us. So here's our Bible story for today that also talks about a storm. It's from Matthew, which is the first gospel in the New Testament. Matthew 8, verses 23 through 27. And when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. A windstorm arose on the sea, so great that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was asleep. And they went and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. That's a fancy way to say dying. And he said to them, Why are you afraid, you of little faith? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a dead calm. They were amazed, saying, What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? So that's our story for today, nice and short. So what we saw in both stories was that when Miss Ruth and her husband reached out to God. They ended up having everything calmed down enough that they could get to the other side safely. And in our story here, the disciples, when they woke up Jesus, realized that Jesus could stop the storm. So let's remember that even the disciples were scared. So sometimes if we're scared, that's okay, because the disciples knew Jesus super well, and they even got scared. But if we are scared like the disciples, we need to remember that we can bring those fears to Jesus. And we can ask him for help with our families, our friends, our neighbors, or even people we don't know. Because God cares about anything that we care about. So here's my challenge. We're talking about safety. They were in a boat and they were worried that they were going to fall out. So my challenge to you is to take a walk around your house and your yard and to look for safety problems, things that you might be able to fix, or if it's things that might be what your next door neighbor has that they might need help fixing, maybe you can help out with that. So that's my challenge to you today, is to try and find things that will help you feel safer and make sure you're prepared. It might be things like talking about how to get out of your house if there were a fire, or how to meet up if you got out of the fire, what's your meeting place, so things like that. Those are good things to talk about. So I was wondering, if you were out on the lake, how do you think it would be if you saw all of a sudden this guy get up from a nap and he calmed down the whole sea? Wouldn't that be kind of neat? So I wonder if there were anybody else who witnessed that other than the disciples. And we need to remember, because another thing I hear a lot of times is people say, well, God brought the storm to kill those people, or God might not have thought that their faith was strong enough. So just know that if there is a storm that comes up, and we've had a lot of storms recently this summer, so if we do have a storm that comes up or anything else that's wrong in this world, we can't instantly say, God's punishing us. That must be what it is, because that's an easy out. I mean, bad things happen in the world, but God's always there to comfort us. So we can't assign the blame to God, because God's always the one who gets us out of the bad situations. So here's our prayer for the day. So fold your hands. Dear God, we ask you to be with us when we are scared. Thank you for being with us all the time, in happy times, in sad times, and in scary times. Amen. So that's our lesson for Discovery Canyon this week, and I will see you again next week. Have a good week, guys.